Hi everyone, welcome to Java Techie. As you all know, dealing with multithreading in real time can be quite challenging. As a developers, managing compute resources efficiently often become a tricky task, isn't it? So don't worry, I'll keep delivering more content on multithreading with real-time use case. Let's dive into one such use case that will give you a clear picture of how to implement multithreading in real-time scenario. Imagine you are working on an e-commerce project where you need to design an API to apply bulk discount across group of products or million of records efficiently. For example, suppose you receive 1 lakh product ID as part of your request. Now your task is to fetch those products from the inventory, then update each product with the discount details, and then publish the Kafka event to the downstream. Now, how will you design this? Don't worry, let's break down it further and understand each approach step by step. Okay? Alright. So, without any further delay, let's get started. So, to simplify the use case, I break down it to multiple tasks. Since you are getting bulk product ID as part of your request, first you need to loop them. Then, based on each ID, you need to fetch the product from the inventory database. Once you have the product with you, then you need to calculate the discount percentage and update the field, then save into the database. Once you save into the database, then you want to publish the Kafka events to the downstream. Okay, this is what the simple functional block you can consider at this moment, or you can consider these are the different tasks of my use case. Okay, now assume I have defined this logic inside a method and I have defined one endpoint. Now if I trigger that endpoint, let's say I have thousand of request ID, the loop will be iterate thousand time and it will fetch the product from DB, update the DB and publish the Kafka event. The entire task will be executed in a single thread. Then definitely it will take lot of time, right? The execution time will be more and we are losing the performance if we will run in a single thread. Now let's go one step ahead. So what I'll do, I know the stream API, so I will iterate using the parallel stream so that the thread count will be more. It will execute in concurrency, right? Concurrently, those tasks will be executed by different thread. This looks good, right? But is this the correct design to implement the parallel stream or just randomly run it using the 2 or 3 thread or 5 thread? No, right? The dataset size could be more in future. It could be 1 lakh or 10 lakh or 50 lakh. Then how will you handle with the 3 thread? That's not a good idea, isn't it? So let's consider I'm getting 1000 request, 1000 product ID. So rather than process them in a sequential manner, what I can do, I can split these 1000 product ID into batch. Let's say 1 to 200 is a batch, 200 to 400, 400 to 600, so on. Okay, so I split them in a batch. Now I will spin up the thread based on the batch size. I will tell okay, I have 5 batch, I want to spin up 5 thread to execute the task concurrently. So in this way, now you have full control on thread to process the batch. Now let's say in future I am getting 1 lakh request, then I can spin up 10 thread and each thread can take 10,000 requests. Okay, or you can spin up 4 thread which can take each thread can take 25,000 record at a time to process concurrently. Okay, so it depends based on the data size and how you want to split them into the batch and what is the number of thread you want to assign to them. So you need to think properly to play with this thread. Now if your task required consistent performance under the heavy load, then your first thought should be multi-threading with batch processing, which can definitely improve the throughput and reduce the latency. Okay, so whatever we have discussed so far as a theory, let's do it in action. Let's go to the IntelliJ IDEA, we'll go with the traditional approach, then I will show you the demo using parallel stream, then we'll go into this batch approach using multithreading. Okay. So to save our time, already I defined all the functional statement what we have discussed as part of our use case. I will walk you through the code so that you can understand. There is no rocket science, there is no complex code we have implemented as such. So my main intention here to explain more about the multithreading use case and batch processing. How you can play with the thread, that is what the main goal to explain as part of this tutorial. Fine. So if you see here, I'm getting list of product ID. Okay, if you see my product entity, let me open the product entity. I have ID, name, category, price, then each offer applied based on the condition, then what is the discount percentage for that product, and what is the price after discount. Now if you see here in the product service, in the request I'm getting list of product ID, then I'm looping them. Okay, then I'm taking each product ID and fetching it from the DB. Once I got the product object, then I update the discount property to the product object. So basically I'm just checking if product price more than 1000, 10% discount. If it is only 500 plus, then 5% discount. Okay, then after evaluate the discount, what is the price after discount, and then we are just setting the or updating the product object. Also we are validating if discount percentage is greater than 0. If it is 5 or 10, then only set the offer applied condition to the true. This is the simple logic, guys. Okay, now if you go inside this method, once you update the product object, then we save into the DB, then we publish the Kafka event. Fine. So this is what the simple logic we have defined. If you go to the pom.xml, we are using latest version of Spring Boot, that is 3.3.5. Then if you observe, we added the Spring Data API dependency, web dependency, Kafka, and MySQL. Also we have added the Lombok. Okay, these are the dependency we have added. Now if you will go to the product service, to trigger this particular method, I also define one endpoint. Can you see here? We'll take the input as a list of product ID and then iterate one by one, then it will process the logic what we have defined here. Fine. Now also I have defined another endpoint. This is for testing. So once I ran this, it will update the record in the DB, right? So I want to show you the different type of approach. So that is the reason to reset the data in DB, I have defined this endpoint. So you don't need to focus more into this. I'm not doing anything. I'm just updating the record back to the original state. That is what the simple thing I am doing here. Okay. Now whatever we have implemented here, that is what our first approach. I mean the traditional approach. So all the functional statement, fetch the product, update the discount properties, save to the DB, and publish the Kafka event. This is the simple traditional approach. So let's run it. We'll see what is the execution time. Then we'll go one by one. Fine. So to start this, the first step, I need to start the Kafka. So if you'll go to the, I have this document. I will share the link in video description. I have defined all the Kafka command. So you can take this and first start the zookeepers. Just run this command. Then you also need to start the Kafka server. Copy this command. Then just go to the terminal and start the Kafka server as well. Fine. Now meanwhile, let me show you the database. So I have created a product database by adding some bulk record. So the total record you can see I have added 300 record. Okay. And initially the discount percentage is 0. Then each offer applied is false. And price after discount is set to the current price. Okay. So this value will be updated through our code. That's the simple step we are going to perform. So let's start our application, then we can test it. Okay, go to the IntelliJ IDEA, then I will just simply start the app. So I have started the Kafka. Also I just want to show you that I am creating the topic on the fly using the configuration. This one, right? New topic, create topic. This approach we already discussed before. Now if you check this, I have defined the topic name what I want to create. So you can see here application started on port 9191. Now go to the controller class. Let's hit the endpoint /API/products. then this one process, just go to the postman. Fine. Now just run it. Now we see the response. So just keep a note what time it took to complete the execution. It took 3.19 seconds, right? Let me keep a note. Now let's validate same in our database. If I will refresh this, can you see here the discount percentage is changed to 5 because the price is less than 1000, so it will apply the 5%, and after discount the value is also updated in our DV. And for those record, for those product who is eligible to apply the offer, the status is changed to the true. Can you see here all the record got changed? You can compare the value here. Fine. So this code is working, but again we are following the traditional approach. So for that reason it took 3.19 millisecond, not millisecond, 3.19 second to complete the job. Now what I'll do, I'll just reset the record in our DV, data reset in the DV. So if I'll refresh this, it should goes to the original state. Can you see here 999, no changes is there. Now let's go one step ahead and start using the parallel stream. So if you observe in our code, if we'll go to the service, product service, currently we are using stream so that it will be executed in a single thread. So what I want to do, I want to use the parallel stream so that it will use the core of your processor and will spin up the thread. Okay, there is no guarantee how many thread it will spin up, but it will start the few thread from the fork join pool. It will pull the thread from fork join pool and it will start executing the task. Okay, we'll run it and we'll see the time it's taking to execute using parallel stream. For sure this will execute in concurrently. Okay, if you don't know the difference between stream and parallel stream, I have a dedicated video in my Java 8 playlist. You can check that. Also I will share the link in video description for your reference. Okay, now let me restart the app. Okay, so it started. Now before I run this, I just want to show you the records what we published to the Kafka. Okay, so let me open Offset Explorer, then just open the cluster and you must find the topic what we have created. Now if you see the data, change it to the newest, send the request, you can see the record here, right? All the 300 record. Fine, let it be. Let's run it using the parallel stream and we'll see the result now. Now go to the postman, trigger the same endpoint process. Okay, so see the timestamp here. Better let me duplicate this. Now let's run it. Now it will not run in a sequential manner. Now it will be run concurrently. We'll see the result. So if you observe in the request body, I am giving the 300 ID to process the record. Okay, that is what our requirement, right? So I forgot to show the request body in this method, but yeah, our endpoint expect the list of product ID. That is what we are giving here. Now let's run it. And if you'll see the result, it took 2.28 seconds. Little bit better, right? The earlier one took 3 seconds, this took 2 seconds. There is not much difference, but somehow the performance is improved. Let me copy this. So if you see the number, nothing to compare much since we are playing with only 300 record. But if you will try playing with 1000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh record, you can find the huge difference. Okay, almost half difference you will find if you will run in the parallel stream. That is fine. That is the simple approach. We have not used our brain to implement multi-threading. That will be taken care by stream API itself to run your task concurrently. Now let's go to our actual discussion. Now how can I implement the batch and I will spin up the thread based on my batch size. So let's say I have total 300 record. Okay, I want to keep a batch with 5 record. When I'm saying 300 record is nothing the product ID which I am getting as part of the request. Okay, out of this enter 300 request, I cannot process them sequentially. Then what I want to keep a batch of 50 product ID at a time. So if you divide 350, what will be the result? The result will be 6. So I want to run 6 thread so that each thread can process 50 record as a single batch. This is what something I want to design. Okay, so what we can do, I'll go to the code. Better I will do one thing, I will not change anything from this particular class. What I'll do, I'll just copy this class and duplicate it. Now this is the class. Let me close everything so that there will be no confusion. In this B2, we'll modify the code to execute in parallel or execute in a batch. So let's begin with batching the request or number of product ID. So what I'll do here, it's very simple step. I want to first set the batch of list of long value, so that I have 300 requests, right? I'll tell to the thread, hey, the first thread you run from 1 to 50, then second thread you run from 2 to 100. Like this, I'll ask my thread to pick a single batch of list of product ID. Okay, so that is very simple. So what you can do, let me define a method private who will give you the result as a list of long. Long is nothing, your product ID. Okay, now split, define the method name. So what it need list of product ID to process. Then what is the batch size you want to keep, whether you want to process 50 record at a time or 100 record at a time, that depends on your use case. Once you have defined this, initially let me return null for now. Now what you want to do here, very simple, to split group of product ID to a single chunk, first you should know what is the current size, total size, right? That will be nothing, your product ID dot size. Once you get that, you have the total size, you know the batch size. Now what is the number of batch that also you need to evaluate. Now let's say we have 300 product ID and I want to keep a batch of size 50. Then the output should be 6. The number of batch should be 6. If I'll change it to the 100, then I want to keep a batch of 100 product ID at a time. The number of batch should be 3. Okay, like that you need to evaluate. So int total size, okay, plus batch size minus 1 divided by batch size. Now just calculate the number of batches. So for that, what you can do, first let's create a list. Fine. So what these batches will contain, it will contain the number of record. So 1 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, like that. It will keep in a list and it will give the batch, so that we'll iterate this one batch out of this list of list, and then we'll ask our multithreading to each thread process a single batch. That I will come in a moment. So first let's set the batch value. So for that, what you can do, for iterate it, int I equal to 0, I less than equal to batch num, just keep it less than, then just do I plus plus. Now just define what is the start index or what is the start value, from what to what a batch should contain, what is the end. Okay, so what will be the start? Your start will be nothing, I into batch size. So it will begin with first 0 to 50, then 50 to 100, like that. This value, the start value will be 0, 50. I mean, when I'm saying 0, 50, if I'll keep the batch size as 50, then only this value will come. Then 100, this will be the start index, right? Now how will you evaluate the end? Just use the, I mean, you just need to round up it, right? So for that reason I will just use math.min. Fine. Then total size, just increase your I plus 1, then multiply to the batch size 51. The second should be 51, right? Because that is the reason I will be 50 plus 1, 51 into batch size. So if you see, the end will be nothing. If the start will be 0, the first end will be 50. Then if the start will be 51, then second will be 100. Okay, like that we are setting the start and end. Once you have the start and end, just add it to the batch. Batches dot add list of product IDs dot sublist. I want to segment, right, the list of product ID. I want to make it a batch. So that is the reason I am splitting the list from index what? Start to index end. Okay, that is the simple thing. Now just return the batches. This logic is simple, guys. There is nothing. We are just looping the based on the batch number what will evaluate here. Then we are getting the start, which will be begin from 0, 51, 101, like that, and what will be the end? Corresponding batch size. Okay, then we are adding that, we are splitting the list of product ID to sub list by keeping only 1 to 50 in one list, 51 to 100 in another list. That is the reason the return type is list of list. Can you see here? Now what is the next step? Once you split your entire request into the batch, now give each batch to the multithreading. So for that, what I can do, I'll define another method. Let's not touch anything from this method. Okay, so I'll define another method here. So let's define a method, public, then let's say execute product IDs or something like that, then give list of product ID. Okay, now we already have the batch, so just call that split into batches, give the product IDs, and what is the batch size you want to keep? Currently keep it 50, so it should execute by 6th thread. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just define the variable batches. Fine. Now once you have a batch, just iterate each batch and give that batch to a single thread to execute. How you can do that? Simply just iterate batches dot stream, then just do map get a single batch, then give that batch to completable future dot supply async. Fine. Now out of list of batch, you are getting one batch and you are giving to a thread. That thread will execute now. So what I will do, I will just define another private method who will process the batch. Okay, so I can name it process batches, give the batch is nothing, your product ID, just give the batch, it is something 1 to 50 or 51 to 100, like that. Okay, that is what the batch mean here. Just define the method. Next you can do one thing, you can collect it using list, then just define the variable completable feature object. Okay, you can keep it void, then just add something, okay, features or something like that. Why this is crying, just split it for better visibility. Completable feature supply async, then we have given this, then supply async. Okay, So we have defined supply async. It means it will expect some return type. So better let's change it to the run async. Okay. Now void will be allowed here. Simple thing. So again there is a difference between completable feature, run async and supply async. I have the dedicated video about completable feature. You can take a look into it. If you want return type, go for supply async. If you don't want to return anything, keep it void. Use run async. Okay. Now you have the list of features. So what you want? You want to wait for all completable feature to complete their job. So what you can do? Wait, just add a note. So you know how to wait for it. So you can use completable feature dot all of, then just convert that feature. We have the list, right? Just convert it to the 2 array. Okay, then just tell that okay, just join it. So for that I will do new completable feature dot join. That's it. That's simple, right? Now let's start writing the logic for process batches. Nothing to do. Again, just whatever the list of batch you are giving, this one, just iterate it and just process the same logic, fetch and update, publish. Okay. So what I can do, I don't want to create this. Already we have the method who will take the input as a product IDs, right? So I can use this method here directly. That makes sense. Okay. So our main goal, split request product ID into the batch, then iterate that batch, give each batch to a single thread. Okay, that is what we are doing. Then wait for all feature to complete. So that is the reason we have used the join. Okay, you can also use the get method, but that is again you need to handle the exception. So for that reason I have used dot join. Then nothing to do. This will handle all the parallel processing. Now you just come to your method, process product ID, just change it to the simple stream, or even not required, just change it to the for each. Okay. Also just change this batch, just give a meaningful name so that it will be easy to understand. Now again transactional not required, just remove it. Now what we are doing here, very simple guys. Now let's say it will take the first batch, let's say 1 to 50, that will execute by a single thread. That is what we are giving here. Hey, you take batch 1 to 50, create a thread, then execute the process. Now again we are iterating this list of product ID and we are giving our fetch, update and publish method to just process the as usual flow. Okay. Now in second time, the second batch will be 51 to 100, or let's say 50 to 100. We have not added that. 50 to 100. Okay. I guess it will be 51 to 100. Then it will take that chunk of record and process it. The flow will be as usual. Like this, it will take the input. So if you want to show that, I will do one thing, sys out. I'll just define the statement to print what batch take by which thread. Okay. So very simple. Batches, or I will just add. So just added the statement to just print that okay, batch from 1 to 50 take by a single thread, 50 to 50 or 50 to 100 take by another thread. Like that I am just to just give you the proof that okay, we are successfully split group of product ID into the batch of the size we have defined, and this is what the number of thread it spin up. Okay, that is what the simple thing. Main logic you need to understand this part. How did we split here, and then how each batch we are giving here to each thread completable feature. Looks good, right? Now let's try accessing this particular method from our controller. So what I can do, I will go to the controller class, I will duplicate this process slash b2. Okay, now we will not call the product service process product ID, rather we need to inject the b2 service what we created. I'm just injecting using constructor. This is the best practice to perform the constructor based injection. This dot product service v2. Now I'll just call this. Okay, so keep this method private. All looks good, right? So again I repeat, since this is a little bit confusing, I'm repeating it. The entire request product ID I convert into the batch list of long. So that list of batch from 1 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 300. This will give return me as part of this. Once I have this value, what I does, I iterate the list of batch. Then each batch I have given to a new thread to execute. Then I wait for all future to complete. Then the flow is as usual. I mean, whatever the actual business logic we want to execute, we're doing the same, but we batch it and ask to thread to do the job on behalf of us. Okay, that's the simple thing. Now, all good, I believe. Yes. Now let's restart the app. Before that, first let me check the DV. Okay, I need to reset the record, right? I'll just hit the this reset. Okay, record got resetted in the DV. Now let me restart the server. So it started. Now go to the postman, and what is the endpoint? Let me duplicate this. Just add b2. That is what the endpoint we have changed, right? And we have the request body. What we are giving? The number of product ID is 300, and I am asking in our code, or we have written in our code, of batch size 50. So 300 divided by 50 should be 6. Now the output we should get, 6 threads should take the responsibility to execute it. Out of 6 thread, each thread will take the batch size of 50 record. One will take from 1001 to, where is the 50? This one, right? Till this is a one batch. Okay, then next batch begin from here to this 1200. This will be the second batch. Like that it will execute in our code, and also will validate the time, execution time. Since it will execute concurrently with different thread, the task should give you the better result, right? So it should improve the overall throughput and reduce the latency. Let's see that. Let's run it. So if you see the result here, what is the result? 913 millisecond. So let me note it here. Can you see the difference? Again I repeat, since we are playing with very less data, the number might not give you the better visibility about what we achieve using this multi-threading. But give a try with the bulk data like 1000 or 1 lakh record, then you will find the real difference in this number. Okay, but still with 300 record also the number is noticeable, right? In traditional approach it took 3.19 second. Let's consider 3 second. For parallel stream it took 2 second, but for batch, what we have implemented the batch logic using multi-threading, it took only 913 millisecond. Can you see here? Okay, to show you that, okay, it split into the batch and each batch is taken by a single thread. Let's go to the console output. Can you see here? Let me filter. Yeah, the total count is 6. 300 record, batch size is 50, divided, the output will be 6. So it should spin the 6th thread. Let's see. Again there is no order of execution. Okay, can you see here? Initially it begin with the 51 to 100, 1 to 50. Okay, let's see. Just see the thread name. Can you see here? 546, like this. And also if you'll see here, again it started by another thread, worker 6. Now we are seeing this result because we have not defined our own executor. Okay, so what I'll do one thing. I'll just go to the service and I will define my own executor service. I'll just define here private final executor service executor service equal to executors fixed thread pool of what is the thread pool count you want to define. You can do that. For now I will just define 6. Okay, so again you can make it dynamic, that's not an issue, but in real time you cannot define 100 thread or you cannot define 200 thread. Depends on the number of core running on your VM, you can define a specific thread. So defining this number itself is a challenging, so you cannot randomly take the decision. Even now also I have defined 6, but my system don't have much core, it's 4 core or 2 core, I am not sure. So it will not spin up the 6th thread immediately, but yeah, it will create the 6th thread. 2 core will execute by 2 thread. Once someone released, it will spin up another thread. Like that it will work. Okay, so now we'll give our own executor service with the 6th thread. Where should I give? Here. In this batch, I will ask completable feature to use my executor service, my thread pool, rather than getting it from fork join pool. Now let's just restart. But before that, first let me reset the DV. Just validate. Okay, good. Now just restart it. It started. Just clear the console. Now go to the postman and hit the endpoint of v2. Just send the request. Now if you see the result, 880 millisecond. What was the number earlier? 913. Okay, somehow it's better, right? Again, there is no guarantee. Again, in the next run, it will be run within 913 or 880. For example, if I will run it again, it might take more or less time as well. See here, 1207 millisecond. Okay, so that time, but at least it is in millisecond, right? That is something we are achieving the good number. So if it is a large record, you could find better number difference. Fine. Now what do you want to filter? Go to the console and just filter batch, processing batch. Can you see here? 1 2 3 4 5 6 0 1 2. Then this is 1100 1151. Yeah, again the order is not in a, I mean there is no order of execution. Now if you see here, now thread, okay, where it was, can you see the output? Thread 6, thread 1, thread 5, thread 3, 2, 4. It started 6th thread and each thread took the chunk or batch. Can you see here? Of 50. That is what the batch size you have defined. And each batch will be executed by a single thread. Definitely this will give you a better performance, no doubt on it. So the reason I prepared this content, one of viewers recently share his interview experience and he gone through this kind of use case. Interviewer asked him to design a system which will be give you the better throughput and which can reduce the latency in an efficient way to design this API. So he shared this question with me and I have tried to implement and share with you all so that you will not be scared about multi-threading concept. Okay, you know lot of concept, but you need to connect that dot to complete your completable or multi-threading knowledge. Okay, so try with large data set. Since we tried with 300, you try with 1000 or 10,000 record by adding some dummy record and all, and see the difference. Okay, and do let me know in a comment section if you have any doubts. That's all about this particular video, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Meet you soon with a new concept.